Hello everybody, my name is Brooklyn, otherwise known as TheDramaticOtaku, and welcome to episode 2 of Read and Review. This is a series that was originally started for horror anthologies, however, it is also just going to be books that I don't put into the Weeb Wrap-Up, as the Weeb Wrap-Up is my manga and anime review series, whereas the Read and Review is sort of just either horror anthology series that has just a lot of stories in them, like Betwixt, which was the first episode, or are stories that I want to talk about, but I don't feel fits within the Weeb Wrap-Up. Now, this being said, we are talking about the 5th volume of Heartstopper, which did previously feature in the Weeb Wrap-Up. Volumes 1 through 4 I read 2 years ago now. And they appeared in one of my first Weeb Wrap-Ups. I think it was the February one? No, February-March, probably the February-March one. Before we get into my review of the series, we're going to just recap what my original thoughts were of Heartstopper from that Weeb Wrap-Up 2 years ago. I absolutely adore the Heartstopper series. I do have some opinions about it. Volume 4 specifically, shit hits the fan really quickly in terms of main character Charlie's mental health, and this is not, it is and it is not a series that I would recommend. It is a series if you really wanted to read a queer love story. I really love this because I myself am bisexual. I could see a lot of myself in Nick, and I really like this series because of the amount of representation it has. It has like a predominantly queer main cast with a few like straight members. The story also does talk a lot about mental health. Now, personally, if this was just a cute queer romance story and just that, it should have stopped at volume 3. Volume 4 had an unexpected change for me, and that was the, spoilers, mental decline, very sharp mental decline of Charlie. Now, most of volume 4 is spoken from Nick's perspective, as he is partially struggling with the fact that his partner, Charlie, has to go to a mental hospital because he has had such a sharp decline in his mental health. This series specifically talks a lot about bullying, talks a lot about eating disorders, especially in this last volume here. It talks about depression, anxiety, the whole sort of mental health shebang. It is really good to talk about these things, especially in queer love stories, and that is what I like about this series. However, the topics brought up in this story is potentially very triggering. Now, since it has been 2 years since that instance, and since then the Heartstopper Netflix series has come out, I would actually like to sort of change my opinions on the series as a whole, as post reading this, I've realized that each volume kind of has a theme to it, which should be obvious. That's how story structures work. But I mean, like, they have, how do I put this? The first one is like boy meets boy, classic love story. Second one is all about, I think finding yourself, specifically from like Nick's perspective. No, that's the third volume. What was the second volume? This all blends to me. And I haven't watched the second season of Heartstopper yet, but there are themes throughout each and every volume. The most evident one is in volume 4, which talks about mental health, the importance of supporting your loved one in a relationship, especially if they're going through a really tough time, that sort of stuff. Back then, I really hadn't enjoyed volume 4, mainly because the sudden seriousness within the series made me a little uncomfortable, because at the time my mental health also was not the best. Reading it back again, I can see why it's important, so I want to make that addendum. And also that actual Netflix series did change my perspective on the way that I view Heartstopper a little bit. Maybe because like when I started Heartstopper, I had just turned 20 and I was in the midst of my own like start of a relationship. I'm now 3 years on from that start of the relationship, and Heartstopper has since become like very teen pop to me, in the sense that it is a teen love story, but back then it felt like closer to me and my experiences, and now it feels less so. Now it feels more nostalgic more than anything. Heartstopper Volume 5. Now we're gonna put some disclaimers for discussions of eating disorders, sexual themes. Definitely the theme of this book is sex and taking that next level with your partner, as well as mental health as well. Those are my disclaimers for the book. Anyway, so as I said in the disclaimer, Volume 5 is about Charlie and Nick taking the next level as well, not only in their relationship, but Nick taking the next level in his life, really, as he's about to go off to college, leaving Charlie by himself, and Nick is struggling to pick what college he wants. Originally he's gonna just take the one go to the one that's closest to Charlie, but by the end of the novel he realizes he actually really wants to go to one in Leeds so that he can continue doing rugby, and he's sort of found hints of a queer community that he can connect to in Leeds. So I really liked this novel. This now just feels more so nostalgic, as I do remember being at that point in my relationship and wanting to take the next step and sort of second guessing myself. So I feel this is like actually pretty accurate to how queer relationships go, and struggling to work on yourself as well as working together. There's a lot of things I really like plot-wise. Character-wise, I think it's really fun, as always. I really like Nick in this. I think Nick is a very relatable character to myself, just in the way that he interacts with everything, not really knowing what he's doing, but sort of just going with the flow and living mostly in the moment. So when it comes to him actually thinking about his future, he's sort of just like being pulled along until he finds something that actually semi-intrigues him. I love that in Nick as a character. Also in this book, we finally find out about the relationship in Solitaire. I have not read this. I've been meaning to. Solitaire is all about Charlie's sister, and we see the results of Solitaire in the end of Volume 4. And this is sort of just a continuation, as Charlie's sister, whose name I can't remember at the moment, essentially comes out as Ace. And it turns out that her not boyfriend is bi as well. So you have another complexity there, talking about Charlie's sister and her sort of trying to figure out how she feels about her relationship, how I believe she's just asexual, not aromantic, so she still loves the guy that she's with. It's just that she doesn't feel like she is good enough for him. He will get frustrated with her, stuff like that. So she's scared, and like I love this depth of her character, so it is pushing me more towards reading this fucking book. In terms of other things I like about the book, I like that you can see Charlie actually facing the readers now on the spine, and I'm assuming in the next volume it'll be Nick actually facing the audience on the spine. All other Heartstopper volumes have Nick and Charlie sort of like facing away, but if you line up all the spines together, they're looking at each other. So it's like very cute. And yes, it has been confirmed that Heartstopper has one more volume coming, this being volume 6. So generally, overall, I did like this. I will say, from 2 years of me reading and watching this series, I have like not necessarily fallen out of love with the series, but more so come to an understanding that this series really isn't necessarily for me. And by that I mean, like, while I understand the characters, understand their struggles, because it's a nearly universal experience for people being in a relationship and going through these things for the first time with someone. And I say nearly universal because obviously not everyone's the same, but in a way it is more nostalgic to me now than anything else. Sure, the series was fantastic when I was first like starting a relationship, because it's a very queer relationship, all that sort of stuff, and I love the representation of a queer relationship in media, especially something that's so well resound. But this is a very like bare bones version of a queer relationship. Now, that being said, volume 4 and volume 5 has definitely been more impactful, especially volume 4 on the realities of queer relationships for some people, and I feel are more in depth as compared to the first 3 volumes, as the first 3 volumes are very happy-go-lucky, very like palatable for everyone and anyone, whereas volume 4 feels more in depth, and volume 5 I feel is sort of picking up where volume 4 left off, but is still falling into that more palatable version of queerness. Now, that being said, for a majority of people to get points across, you do need a palatable version. And that is not saying that this is bad in the slightest. I'm just saying that it does what My Love Mix-Up does for me. Where My Love Mix-Up is just a romance that happens to be gay. It is the most bare bones queer romance that could ever exist. Heartstopper is very similar. It's just that Heartstopper does tend to go in depth because it's a creation from fucking Tumblr. Of course it does that. It just, I don't know. The critique I want to make is that as an adult, I feel it could go more into depth, but I understand that this is a like series for teenagers. It's a series that's supposed to be like a jumping off point into like understanding yourself, doing research, that sort of stuff. So I guess me thinking more critically of this series, I'm definitely seeing it from a more like adult lens, and I'm seeing it from a lens where this I'm thinking it should be more than what it is, and what it is right now is fantastic. Yeah, I think also I've been a little bit persuaded by Verily Bitchy and her video bad by representation, and Nick shows up. I do actually agree with a fair bit of her video in terms of Nick from Heartstopper, but there are things I don't agree with that video as well. I would recommend giving that a watch, but in general, likability, so I stop fucking yapping in this video. I really liked volume 5. Unfortunately, it feels nostalgic for me, which makes it feel so fucking old, but I really like this. I cannot wait to pick up volume 6. Whether that's in another 2 years or not, I don't fucking know, but because of that, I will try, keyword try, to read Solitaire, and if I had to compare Heartstopper to another series, it'd be My Love Mix-Up. That being said, I'm still trying to work on this fucking video. I'm struggling so much. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video of read and review. Personally, I give this volume of Heartstopper, I think I would give this volume of Heartstopper an 8 out of 10, solely because I think this is the Heartstopper volume that I like the most. Just because, I don't know, I like the progression of their relationship and how Osmond sort of talks about sex in this story, and not even just sex, but starting to get into that next level of one's relationship, and how it's sort of like exciting. Really, this volume was like making me kick my feet and giggle like a schoolgirl because I absolutely love this so much. So yeah, I obviously will be fucking completing the series. I hope to actually read Solitaire, though I am nowhere near as invested as I once was, so I'm not gonna pick up any of the other like actual chapter books for the Heartstopper universe, or just of Osman's at this moment. I think I much prefer Osman's novels as graphic novels. There might be a reason for that. Yeah, other than that, I really do enjoy Heartstopper. I'm just like, with this series as a whole, very mixed, but with this chapter I really enjoyed it and I would definitely recommend it if you are into gay shit like myself. That being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is a lot shorter. I am struggling to edit videos because my hours have been upped from 18 hours working to 25. So it's like, you know? So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I will see you guys next week. Bye.